back on the football season that was. I'm curious, Michael Borky, I know you're curious about this because you wrote the question. I'm just reading it. What was your favorite moment of the 2022 football season? And I think there are two ways to answer this, right? Favorite moment as it pertains to a team from here in Mississippi. Hey, Dad, your favorite Mississippi State moment of the season? Favorite Ole Miss moment of the season? And we want to hear yours as well. In fact, your memories at times are better than ours. And you can tell us your favorite moment from the football season on the C Spire text line. But then beyond that, not just local, all of college football, favorite moment of the season. Borky, I know this is something you've been kicking around a little bit, maybe even calling it a little cheesy.
A little bit.
Let's start with you. What's
cheesy's fun?
Maybe local and national.
So national, it's a brand that I make fun of quite often, honestly, because they haven't been good since I was a small child. But the environment in Knoxville, the college game day, the environment itself, the game itself, and then the post-game visuals after Tennessee beat Alabama with the fireworks up around Neyland and then the cigar smoke rising up out of the stadium. 50,000 fans on the field? Something like that. I mean, half the stadium on the field, blanketing the entire thing. That was college football at its absolute best. Big-time environment. Major upset, sort of.
I don't know if you know this or not, but college football is better when Tennessee's good, Borky.
Oh, don't even. But yeah, I mean, that was as perfect of a college football thing. If I was trying to sell college football to somebody, that would have been my sales pitch. That game, that environment, those visuals, the post-game reaction, all of that.
And it was the perfect point of the season for a 2:30 game, right? Starts in bright daylight, transitions into dusk, and by the time the game ends, the lights are on and it's dark and it feels like a night game. Yeah, that was a really, really good visual in college football this year. Hey, Dad, what about for you?
If we're just in one moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with TCU's fire drill field goal against Baylor.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
I just thought that is just so beautiful, and I love there was somebody tweeted out a video the next day of somebody who was in the end zone and was recording the whole thing, so you get that reaction as the ball, and they're all TCU. It's just fantastic. It's just so much fun. Everything on the line, and you had to run out there and do it when it matters the absolute most. How can you not love that? It was great.
And that was the difference in TCU being in the playoff and not being in the playoff, right? There was no margin for error for the Horned Frogs in that moment. You know, you guys laughed at me when I picked or said that I was kind of pulling for Georgia, and lots of listeners were like, "Yeah, of course Richard's pulling for Georgia." Conference pride, whatever. Georgia is one of the blue bloods, right? And there are a few of those programs that they just live a different life than everybody else in college football. So there may be some recency bias here. And picking a favorite moment from the season coming from bowl season maybe is a little crazy. But when we were on the air for the last 4.5 minutes of the Cotton Bowl, and we watched Tulane, who had, 30,000 people at Jerry's World. They don't put 30,000 people in their own stadium ever. And yet it was like everybody that was a fan of Tulane was there for that game. And why wouldn't they be, right? It's not that far from New Orleans to Dallas. And that's the biggest moment for Tulane football in close to a century. And to see them from down 15 to winning against one of those traditional powers, one of those blue bloods, one of those programs that lives in a different zip code than everybody else in college football, I just thought that was an incredible moment to see Michael Pratt, to see a team that went 2-10 a year ago come back and have the magical season that they had. I thought that was outstanding. And if it's not my favorite, it certainly is one of my favorite national moments of the entire season. And by the way, really good uniforms to go along with it. Tulane's uniforms are really, really good. What if we make it a little more local?
I think they're obvious. I think. And for State, it's an unfortunate, I don't know if you can call this the best moment because it arose from unfortunate circumstances, but winning the bowl game was really cool, considering what they had been through the weeks leading up to it. That can't be like the best moment because of why that was what it was, but that's got to be way up there in terms of postseason moments in the history of the program. Winning that game after dealing with what they dealt with is really cool. And for Ole Miss, it's the strip sack on Will Levis to beat Kentucky. I mean, it was a beautiful day. They did the powder blue out, and that is Ole Miss's best color. I know some people don't like hearing that, but it is. The stadium looked amazing. The visuals were awesome. And the strip sack on Levis to seal the game after you forced a fumble the possession before, and it vaulted you to 7-0 and inside of the top 10. It fell apart after that, but that was a pretty awesome 4 quarters of football right there with the visuals and everything that came with it.
Yeah, and for Ole Miss, the Kentucky game is what I was going to go to as well. And, you didn't know what Kentucky was going to become. That was a game that I had circled all year long, or all off-season long, because you knew what was happening before that Ole Miss should be 4-0 going into that game. You knew that Kentucky should be 4-0 going into that game. And so you got that. To me, the only thing you didn't get was the proper kickoff time. You were stuck with an 11 a.m. kickoff time, and yet it still looked great. It was one of those kind of like canopy of blue Chamber of Commerce days. And I always think it's cool and adds to the environment when you've got a legit visiting crowd. And that may have been Kentucky's best road crowd in a decade for anywhere that they've been. There were, somewhere in the 5,000 to 7,000, 8,000 range of Kentucky Blue fans that were at the stadium in the game. It's a close game. Ole Miss made some big plays. Yeah, I know Kentucky turned out not to be great. Ole Miss stumbled down the stretch. But in the moment, that was a big deal. What was it? It was 7 Kentucky, and I think Ole Miss was 11 in that game.
Something like that.
So you were right there on the edge of a top 10 matchup. It felt big at the time. That was, to me, the coolest moment for Ole Miss. We'll ask K-Dad moments from the 2022 college football season. Sean says being a diehard VFL, that's Fall for Life, seeing Tennessee pull out the win against Alabama and the 3 ESPN College Game Day appearances during Tennessee's season this year. I guess that was the most frequent stop for College Game Day, and they put on a good show when they were there. Here's another one. Week 2, when the Sun Belt put itself on the map. App State over Texas A&M, Marshall over Notre Dame, Southern Miss over ULL on ESPN primetime on Thursday night. That was a really good weekend from the Sun Belt Conference. Buddy in D'Iberville wants to know if it can be a high school memory. Sure, buddy. Whatever you like from the football season. We're primarily talking college memories, but if you want to throw a high school one at us, go for it. Here's one. No name attached to it. Selfishly, I'd love to pick Mississippi State beating Ole Miss, but honestly, it was seeing teams across the country rally around Mississippi State and share stories of Coach Leach after his passing. That's from Jeff in Meridian. Sorry, Jeff did have a name on that. Hey, guys, it's Alan, Alabama fan. I know y'all probably think I'm crazy, but my best part of the season is that it's over, and that's weird to say because I love football. I guess because this season was a tick below the standard that has become Alabama football. I don't know, man. Still 11-win season. Probably ought to enjoy them because they are not guaranteed forever. I do know that seeing Alabama in the playoff feels like a birthright, and I'm not even being flippant when I say that, right? It just feels like that because it's what you've done for a decade plus. But, man, enjoy them. Try not to ever let it get old because there's no guarantee it sticks that way forever. Another one, my favorite moment, Florida State having a great year and beating the Water Lizards. Go Noles. Florida State fan chiming in. Love it. I love it. All right. Hey, Dad. Mississippi State. Favorite moment this season.
I really want to say that I don't think I'll ever see anybody throw a chair onto a field again. That might be one. I saw that look. I saw your look there. I saw those nostrils flare. It's probably got to be Randy Charlton deflecting that pass, the 2-point conversion, and sealing up the Egg Bowl win. That's probably going to be it. I got a big kick out of Marcus Banks's touchdown at the end of the ReliaQuest Bowl just because of the crazy nature of it. I thought was a really fitting tribute to Mike Leach. Something that you couldn't have possibly planned, obviously, but I just thought that if that's the way his last team scored a touchdown in a season, he would have gotten a kick out of that. And then just the way State dominated Texas A&M and Arkansas in back-to-back weeks to sort of make the point that they were going to be a better team than a lot of people thought. I thought that was fun. But Charlton's deflection, we haven't come up with a catchy name for it yet, but to me that's right up there with a lot of the one time, the big plays in Egg Bowl history.
Yeah. Borky, hey, Dad didn't really understand the exercise. He just decided to pick all of the high moments for Mississippi State on the football field this year as his favorite.
It's Charlton. It's
Literally
Charlton's deflection. Charlton's deflection.
I understand why you and other Mississippi State fans would immediately go to the Egg Bowl as favorite moment from the year, and there's nothing at all wrong with that. But I was kind of looking back through Mississippi State's schedule, and it was what you mentioned a second ago. Not so much the 2-week stretch, but the game against Arkansas. Right, it was wasn't that one of those really pretty days?
Gorgeous.
Beautiful day, second Saturday in the month of October. I know an 11 a.m. kickoff, but the stadium was basically full that day. And Mississippi State jumped out to a 14-0 lead. I know there were times where it didn't feel 100% comfortable when Arkansas kind of made it a game in the second quarter. State was actually up 21-0. In that game before Arkansas kind of punched back a little bit. Game was never in doubt. Never in doubt, even though Malik Hornsby had some big runs. That feels like kind of the perfect college football Saturday, right? Early October, beautiful day, packed house, get the win early in the day, get to go home and watch football for the rest of the afternoon, the rest of the evening. I thought that was a really good moment. I don't know if that's anybody's favorite moment this year for Mississippi State. But to me, that's one that you would highlight and go, you know what, that was a really good Saturday in Starkville.
Was it Charlton's right hand?
Yeah.
Randy's right?
Oh, you're trying to.
Yeah. I'm trying to think through it. Because you got to name that. That needs a name.
The handy Randy.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Sorry. No.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out. We got time. So.
Surprise!
The thing about the Arkansas game too.
At that as you said it.
The Arkansas game, what makes it interesting is State was 5-1 going into a bye week. I think we all thought the next week they were going to beat Kentucky. That was kind of the high point of expectations for Mississippi State. That was a point where you were like, they could really have a good season if they go to Kentucky next weekend and win. Of course, that didn't happen, and the season plays out the way it did. And what happened next? So.
What about you, Southern Miss fans? You're listening. What was your favorite moment throughout the course of the season?
If it wasn't at the time, it needs to be the
Frank Gore. Win. No, if it's not Frank Gore running every which way but loose on Rice, then you've got to pick something different. That's the one.
Yeah. A couple of other messages on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Somebody says Texas A&M being awful and Jimbo having to live with it. That's their favorite moment. Well, that's kind of an extended moment as well. But yes,
it was fun.
Lots of moments.
We got a laugh out of almost every week.
I like this from Lucas. He's talking about Mississippi State. He says the blocked field goal attempt, then return for a touchdown versus Texas A&M was my favorite State memory from this season. It got really, really, really loud when that happened.
It was good. Yeah.
Like you're in a loud stadium, you're like, wow, it's loud. And then you're like, oh, it just went to a different place. It just went to a different level.
Yeah,
that's where it
like
was
the
when that
block
happened.
was loud. The block was loud. But when he scooped it and you realized he was gone, you're like, that's when it went up a notch, yeah.
Here's one for Southern Miss. Watching Frank Gore Jr. go wild against Rice. Yeah.
It's got to be it.
Three. How many? Three what? Why does 327 stand out? But I feel like it was more than that. My other favorite moment from the 2022 season. Okay, I was close. Was Florida State's last-minute field goal to win over LSU.
The whole final 90 seconds of game time in that game is one of the best college football moments of the year.
Yeah. Gib, you're going to have to forgive me for not reading your message on the air. The win over Tulane to win the bell back. That's another Southern Miss memory. Here's another one. Southern Miss beating Tulane. Egg Bowl, the immaculate deflection.
Isn't that what the field goal that blew back is?
I was going to say, I think I've heard that somewhere before.
It's taken. We can't go that route.
Mike in Oxford, one that I mentioned earlier, Tulane's comeback against Southern Cal. Pretty special, no doubt.
Very fun. Very fun.
And Dale from the Delta says, looking back now, probably that Tulane win for Southern Miss. Preston and Fulton goes with Jonathan Mingo's record-setting day against Vanderbilt. That was a special day for Mingo. Absolutely special day. Borky, you were there for this one. Brandon says game day in Jackson.
Yeah, it was cool.
It's a good one.
Weather held off, man. Really good day.
Let's see here. Favorite state moment was the Arkansas game. First game, my 9-year-old daughter went with me, and she had a blast.